Hello students, in this session we will try to understand the difference between living and non-living. So, what is biodiversity? Biodiversity means diverse life forms in the environment. There is a vast diversity of living organisms around us. Some of these organisms are large enough which can be easily seen by a naked eyes, while some are so tiny that you need a microscope to study them. Approximately 1.8 million species have been described, and every day a new species is added to the list. So then, the basic question is, what do we understand by a living organism? The living world includes many diverse forms of organisms like plants, animals, microbes, fungi, etc. All these living organisms are somehow connected to each other in one or the other way. Even bacteria, amoeba, dinosaurs also share some relationship with humans. As biologists, our aim is to understand the difference between living and non-living, and on what grounds are they different from each other. So if we need to define the term living, we need to understand few basic characters shown by these organisms like growth, reproduction, sensation, metabolism, cellular organization, consciousness. Let's talk about the first character, growth. Growth is defined as an increase in size, mass, or number of cells with respect to cell or an organism. Organisms can grow by cell division. Like plant cell divides continuously throughout its lifetime, whereas animal cells divide up to certain age. Growth is an irreversible permanent change. Non-living things like mountains show growth, but the growth is from outside. Such kind is called accretion, whereas living organisms grow from inside. So, growth cannot be considered as a defining property of living organisms. Now, let's take reproduction. Organisms reproduce sexually or asexually to produce offsprings of their own kind. Unicellular organisms like bacteria, amoeba reproduce by increase in cell number, that is cell division. Organisms like fungi multiply by asexual spores, lower organisms like yeast by budding, planaria by regeneration, and Spirogyra by fragmentation. Reproduction cannot be considered as a defining character since animals like mule, being sterile, do not reproduce. Also, infertile human do not reproduce. Next, let's talk about metabolism. What do we understand by metabolism? A set of chemical reactions, right? Every living organism is made up of chemical substances. These biochemical substances are continuously being produced in some or the other form in the living organism. Chemical reactions are also performed in laboratories, but metabolic reactions take place only in a living cell. All the metabolic reactions either use or give energy molecules, which are then used to carry out vital life processes. So, metabolism can also be considered as a defining property in a living organism. Let's talk about cellular organization. Every organism is made up of a cell. Unicellular organisms are capable of independent existence and perform all essential functions of life with a single cell. Anything less than a complete structure of cell does not ensure independent living. Hence, a cell is called the fundamental, structural, and a functional unit of a living organism. Multicellular organisms, on the other hand, have many cells which interact with each other to perform the vital functions of the body. So, in this way, it proves to be a defining property of a living organism. Next one is response to stimuli. All living organisms are aware of their surrounding or the environment, while the non-living are not. Living organisms sense their surrounding and respond to these environmental stimuli accordingly. They also adapt themselves to any change in their surrounding environment. The last and the most important characteristic of a living organism is consciousness. All living organisms are aware of their surrounding, but human beings are not only aware but are also self-conscious. For example, if we here consider a person in coma, he is completely unaware about the surrounding, right? But he responds to some stimuli, that is, the medicines administered to him. So we consider that person alive on that character. So consciousness also becomes one of the defining property of living organisms. In the next session, we will be talking about taxonomy, binomial nomenclature, identification, and classification. Thank you.